Keanu Reeves sees his former teacher. Homeless, what he did next is unbelievable. It was a chilly evening in downtown Los Angeles, and Keanu Reeves was walking home after a long day of shooting for his latest movie. He was the kind of person who preferred solitude, often choosing to walk alone instead of taking his car. On this particular night, something unusual caught his attention. Sitting against the wall of an old diner was a frail man wrapped in layers of tattered clothing. His head was bowed low, his hands clutching a worn-out notebook. The sight wasn't uncommon in the bustling city, but what froze Keanu in his tracks was the faint familiarity of the man's face. His heart skipped a beat as he stepped closer, realizing the man wasn't just a stranger. He was Mr. Thornton, Keanu's high school English teacher. Keanu hadn't seen him in over 3 decades, but the memories came flooding back. Mr. Thornton wasn't just any teacher. He was the one who had introduced Keanu to Shakespeare, the one who had encouraged him to believe in his dreams of acting when no one else did. Back then, Mr. Thornton had been a man of immense dignity and passion. Seeing him in this state was both shocking and heart-wrenching. Keanu crouched down and gently called his name. At first, the man didn't respond, but when Keanu repeated himself, the man looked up, his eyes clouded with age and exhaustion. Recognition dawned slowly. "Keanu?" Mr. Thornton's voice was raspy, filled with disbelief. "Yes, it's me," Keanu replied softly, trying to mask the wave of emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "What happened to you, Mr. Thornton?" The older man gave a bitter smile. "Life, I suppose. Lost my wife years ago, then my health, then my home. It all spiraled." He coughed lightly, clearly embarrassed by his circumstances. "But don't mind me. I'm just glad to see you're doing well." Keanu's mind raced. This wasn't how things were supposed to be. He couldn't just walk away, not after all that Mr. Thornton had done for him. But before he could say anything, the teacher's tone changed. "You know, I always knew you'd make it big," Mr. Thornton said, his voice tinged with pride. "But I never thought I'd see you like this. Life has a funny way of bringing people together, doesn't it?" Keanu nodded, his thoughts still scattered. He knew he needed to help, but how? The last thing he wanted was to embarrass or offend the man who had once been his mentor. "Do you have a place to stay tonight?" Keanu finally asked. Mr. Thornton hesitated. "I usually find a shelter or a bench," he admitted, his voice barely audible. Without another word, Keanu extended his hand. "Come with me." The older man looked at him skeptically. "Keanu, I don't need your charity." "It's not charity," Keanu insisted. "It's gratitude. You believed in me when no one else did. Let me repay the favor." Reluctantly, Mr. Thornton took his hand and the two walked together into the night. Keanu brought him to a quiet hotel nearby, making sure he was settled with a warm meal and fresh clothes. But as he watched his former teacher eat in silence, Keanu felt that this wasn't enough. The next day, Keanu arranged for a doctor to check on Mr. Thornton's health. The prognosis was grim. Years of neglect had taken their toll. But the doctor's words also lit a fire in Keanu. This wasn't just about helping his teacher survive. It was about giving him a reason to live again. Over the following weeks, Keanu dedicated himself to Mr. Thornton's recovery. He arranged for long-term care, found a small but comfortable apartment for him, and even started reading sessions together, just like they used to do in school. The teacher's love for literature hadn't faded, and Keanu saw glimpses of the passionate man he had once been. But just as things seemed to be improving, a twist came. One afternoon, while organizing Mr. Thornton's old belongings, Keanu found a stack of papers buried in the notebook the teacher always carried. They were manuscripts, stories, poems, and essays written in Mr. Thornton's unmistakable style. They were brilliant, full of wit and wisdom. "Why didn't you ever publish these?" Keanu asked, astonished. Mr. Thornton shrugged. "Who would care about the ramblings of an old man?" Keanu's expression turned serious. "The world would care. These are incredible. You've spent your life inspiring others. It's time people see the talent you have." What happened next would change both their lives in ways neither of them could have imagined. Keanu didn't waste any time. He reached out to his connections in the publishing world, determined to ensure that Mr. Thornton's work saw the light of day. The process wasn't easy. Many publishers hesitated to take a chance on the writings of an unknown, aging author. But Keanu's unwavering belief in his teacher's talent pushed him forward. Eventually, he found an independent publisher who saw the potential in Mr. Thornton's words. Keanu took it upon himself to edit and organize the manuscripts, pouring his heart into every page. The collection of stories and essays was titled Echoes of a Forgotten Voice, a name that captured both the pain and brilliance of Mr. Thornton's journey. The book was released quietly with modest expectations. But within weeks, something extraordinary happened. Reviews began pouring in, praising the work as deeply moving and profoundly insightful. Readers connected with the raw humanity in the pages, and soon, Echoes of a Forgotten Voice became a sensation. Mr. Thornton, who had once resigned himself to obscurity, found himself thrust into the spotlight. Interviews, book signings, and speaking engagements followed. At first he was hesitant, overwhelmed by the sudden attention, but Keanu was always by his side, encouraging him to embrace this second chance. But as their bond grew stronger, another twist emerged. One evening during a quiet dinner, Mr. Thornton revealed something that shook Keanu to his core. "I need to tell you something," Mr. Thornton said, his voice trembling slightly. "I almost gave up once, completely. Years ago, when I lost everything, I thought about ending it all. But then, one day, I saw you in a movie. You were so brilliant, so full of life. It reminded me of those days when I used to teach, when I felt like I mattered. That gave me hope, Keanu. You gave me hope." Keanu was speechless. The man who had inspired him to chase his dreams had, in turn, been saved by those very dreams. It was a revelation that left both of them reflecting on the interconnectedness of their lives. As months turned into years, Echoes of a Forgotten Voice became a literary classic. The royalties ensured that Mr. Thornton would never have to worry about financial stability again. But more than that, he had rediscovered his purpose. He began teaching creative writing workshops, mentoring young writers, and spreading the message that it's never too late to start over. Keanu, too, found his life transformed by the experience. He continued his acting career, but with a renewed sense of gratitude and humility. He often credited Mr. Thornton for shaping the man he had become, and their story became a powerful reminder of the impact one person can have on another's life. One day, during a public event celebrating the 5th anniversary of the book's release, Mr. Thornton addressed the crowd with a heartfelt speech. "We all have moments when we feel lost, forgotten, or broken. But the truth is, none of us are ever truly alone. The smallest acts of kindness can create ripples that change lives. Keanu's kindness gave me a second chance, but it was his belief in me that truly saved me. And that's the lesson I hope you all take away. Never underestimate the power of believing in someone, even when they've stopped believing in themselves." The crowd erupted in applause, but for Keanu, the moment was deeply personal. As he stood beside his former teacher, he realized that their story wasn't just about redemption or second chances. It was about the extraordinary bond that forms when people lift each other up, refusing to let the world break them. In the end, both Keanu and Mr. Thornton had found what they didn't know they were searching for: a renewed sense of purpose, fueled by the knowledge that even in the darkest moments, hope can shine through when least expected. Life often connects us in ways we don't immediately understand. A small act of kindness or a simple belief in someone's potential can create ripples that transform lives. It reminds us that no matter how broken someone seems, there's always a spark worth reigniting, and that spark can change the world.